Pleasure to meet you once again, and you're welcome to Environment Today on Africa Independent Television.
Thank you very much.
All right. So, recently, at a forum, 14th International Renewable Energy Agency Assembly, that's the Legislators Forum, you were quoted to have said that Nigeria can leverage on renewables to industrialize. Could you
Yes.
expatiate on this?
Yeah, thank you for having me. Yeah, the reason I say so is because it's clear that we have been having some challenges with our energy sector. And it's because we've been talking about the grid is working today, it's not working tomorrow. So there's a deliberate approach to triple renewables around the world. At least that was one of the resolutions during the COP28. Now, what that does for us is to reduce the pressure on traditional sources of energy. For instance, you can see how many times we've had the grid has knocked off another. So if you use renewable energy, one, you reduce pressure on the grid. And then you can now divert the energy you are getting from renewables into some areas of industrialization. So that way you'll be able to develop in a green and sustainable manner for the entire nation. But if we were to rely on the old order, and other, this order will continue to crawl and continue to tell the stories. For instance, you may have heard that during the 37th ordinary session of the Africa Union in Addis Ababa, there were resolutions that they had. Some of those resolutions were that, okay, fine. They have reviewed every situation and they find that about 600 million Africans do not have access to electricity. And you know that out of this 600 million, Nigeria has about 90 million of that. That's a challenge. They further also stated that out of 970 million Africans that do not have access to clean cooking. Now, these scenarios are clear. So, if you come out of this, you also realize that Nigeria itself, about 30 million homes do not have access to clean cooking.
There are steps already being taken by the federal government, including this LT-LEDs that the document is being presented today. Do you think that is a step in the right direction, and would it help in achieving this? Now, don't forget that Nigeria is still a fossil fuel-driven economy.
Yes, of course, there's no doubt about that. And Nigeria is a fossil fuel-driven economy. But nobody's making no pretenses about that at all. And that's why we are taking the steps. Like we talked about the LT-LEDs, it's intended to map out clear strategies to be followed towards achieving our overall objective of industrializing the nation in a green and sustainable way. Now, if you do not have these strategies laid out for you to follow, what to do, how to go about it, you'll just be groping in the dark, operating without knowing what you are doing. This is why this workshop is very, very, very important. And on the issue of how we can use, renewables to serve the underserved or even unserved areas not completely attended. Yes, that's why the federal government, through the National Assembly, has taken a far-reaching step. One of the foremost steps, one of the strongest, a profound step by the federal government, which was to remove electricity from the exclusive list and move it to the concurrent list. That is what the 9th Assembly did. And you will agree with me that that's a profound step. And then the 9th Assembly, of which I was a member, did not stop there. We moved further and they enacted the Electricity Act, which act has now liberalized the process of, generating, producing energy within the country, where the federal government can do, state government can also participate, the local government can participate, and even individuals can do that, so as to be able to reach all those areas that are the area referred to as the underserved areas. And By so doing, through mini grid, off grid, you'll be able to reduce pressure on the grid that we have that has almost always broken down. So this is the proper step. And what we are doing here in this national workshop is to get people who are going to be involved in the implementation and also in teaching others ready that these are the steps that you must see, you must look forward to, you must ensure that they are there, and you follow these pathways towards achieving our objective. Tripling of renewable energy is achievable. I will tell you something, and which is why we are getting involved in all these engagements to make our people know that we don't have to sit back and say, oh no, ours is fossil-based economy and therefore we are not involved. No, we are, because I'll give you instances. The Chinese now are producing enough electric vehicle to sell to, well, let me be conservative, more than half of the world today as we speak. The Norwegians, who are also oil, fossil fuel based economy, or they are getting a lot of money from the oil because of the exporting money, they have moved to renewables to about 80%. But they're also still producing oil. And they're even taking further steps to have areas where they store, carbon today as we speak. And that's Norway. Then so many other European countries are moving in this direction. The Germans have gone very far. So, and they are moving side by side. That's why we know if it was not going to be achievable, all these major countries, the United States, China, the greatest polluters, they would not have committed to it. They did. And it was a good thing that our own president was there. So we have a duty to begin now to move. Why? We do not want these people to transit, to renewables or other forms of energy when our main source of revenue is oil and gas. If you stay back and you are not moving along, by the time they transit, you'll be left with critical assets. They'll be stranded. And at that point, it's going to be bad for the nation because they are not buying your oil and you are not prepared to, take the next step. So this is something that is very, very important. And that's why an exercise, a workshop of this nature is very, 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 very useful. And we must all work together to achieve this. Otherwise, we'll be left behind. Nigeria is ripe for industrialization. And like I said at the 14th IRENA Assembly, I said that this is a time for people who want to invest in renewable energy in other sectors of the Nigerian economy to come. And also appeal to them not to allow themselves to make the mistakes that their predecessors made when we were transiting or when we were moving away from, NITEL or no NITEL, and when we were going into mobile telecommunication. A lot of countries, a lot of companies, established companies, we appeal to them, we approach them to come and invest in Nigeria. They said it was a high risk, and they did not come. And at the end of the day, companies that came are still smiling to the banks today. So we need them to come early to participate. This is a population of well over 200 million people. And like I said earlier, where you have close to 90 million people not having access to electricity and many more also not having access to clean cooking, you see now that the market is open. The market is just there for people to come and harvest and participate in moving this economy that is waiting to take off forward in the right direction.
I will be speaking with the sponsor of Nigeria's Climate Change Act and former member of House of Representatives, Sam Onuigbo. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, you're welcome to the show.
Nigeria is blessed with iconic wildlife: elephants, gorillas, pangolins, and so much more. But these beautiful animals are threatened by illegal logging and poaching. And we will lose our national heritage if we don't stand up for wildlife. So please report wildlife crimes and say no to illegal bushmeat, because protecting nature protects our future.